Here is a guide for the first half of your team project, the strategic marketing plan. I will be on hand for the fourth synchronous session, though, to answer any questions and provide any additional clarity you may need on some of the different concepts presented in the strategic marketing plan for the first half. I think it is good to keep in mind that strategic marketing plans are not that difficult, just time consuming, so please carefully plan your team schedule so you will have adequate time to develop the different parts of the situation and SWOT analyses. The strategic marketing plan is sequential. That is a step-by-step process. The first steps are noted in the color orange. This is the research phase of the situation and SWOT analyses. Basically, you are asking yourself, who is my client and where are they now in their business? The steps in blue are for the second half of the project. But first, you will need to submit the situation and SWOT analyses in session 7. Once approved, your team then completes the other steps that answer the questions, where do we want to be, or your objectives? How are we going to get there, your strategies and tactics? And finally, how do we know we got there, or the control and evaluation step of the process? The academic article that presents the strategic marketing plan is posted on Blackboard. I have made some modifications to it to make it easier for you to follow. The modified outline is what you see on the right side of the slide. The first half of the strategic marketing plan, you complete Roman numerals 1 and 2. The situation analysis provides an overview of your company and client. For example, how many years they have been in business, their background, the number of employees they have, and their operational divisions. If you can, it is often good to provide an organizational chart of the company. Then, if there is a mission or policies of the company, you provide them next. Following that, you complete an internal and external analysis of the company. Let's look a bit more in depth at that now. The first place to begin is on Blackboard. I have provided many resources and templates to help you in the internal and external analysis. Be sure to look there first, as reviewing them may help kickstart your research in a particular area. For the internal analysis, you are looking within the company. You are looking inside the box. Who is my client and how are they doing? During the internal analysis, you will examine your client's use of the marketing mix, which is product, price, distribution channels or place, and promotion. If your client is a service business or organization, you will likely deal with the other P's of people and physical evidence. So you might be a service business like a healthcare provider, but there is still important physical evidence that is part of your product, so to speak. Say your waiting rooms or the reception area, the examination rooms, the people and technicians that are there to help deliver the service. On the external analysis, you are not looking at the company per se, but rather at the external environment in which the company or organization operates. You first complete a macro analysis, looking at the economic, social, cultural, political, economic, and technological environments. Not all of the macro environments will apply to all companies. You have to determine which ones are important to address. For example, almost all organizations are impacted by the economic environment. If there is inflation looming, there is going to have a definite impact on business conditions. After the macro analysis, you complete a microanalysis. That is, the firms, individuals, and customers outside of your business. This should be the company's competitors, trends with customers, and stakeholder interests, things like that. You might find that some of the things you discover in the microenvironment are also reflected in the macro environment. That is to be expected. You would discuss them in both areas. Now I'm going to present some models to help you in the internal and external analysis. For the internal analysis, The McKinsey matrix is something helpful in understanding where a business currently is. First of all, it's not easy to use and relies a lot on subjective thinking or analysis. So what you have in this matrix are two variables: market attractiveness on the vertical axis and the strengths of the business unit on the horizontal axis. There are some standard factors that can be used for measuring each variable in how well the company or organization is performing. You will note the horizontal direction of the horizontal axis from right to left, beginning with low performing to strong. The vertical axis of market attractiveness starts at the bottom with low performance and moves to the high performance at the top. If you are both strong in business strength and market attractiveness, you will be in the green zone, which is grow and invest. However, if you perform poorly with the factors in each area, you might find yourself in the red zone, which is harvest and divest. Let's see on the next slide how this matrix really works. First, you will need to weight each of the factors, but the total weight for all factors of one variable cannot be greater than 1. So look at the factors I have selected for market attractiveness. The first, market share, I think is fairly important, so it has a weight of 0.5. The next factor, market growth, I consider not as important, so it has a weight of 0.2. You will note that all of the factors add up to 1. You then score each factor on a scale of 1 to 5. So if I thought my company did extremely well with marketing share, I would give them a score of 5. You then multiply the score by the weight for a total. You then total all of the factor totals to get a coordinate. And in the case I have on this slide for attractiveness, it is a score or a coordinate of 5.4. I have done the same thing for business strengths, and here you will see the total after all of the weighting and scoring is 3.16. Now I plot each on my matrix, and you will see that I fall between the yellow and red territory or zones. So that might tell me I might want to give some extra attention to this business in terms of its investment needs. Now here is a real-world example from Marriott using the McKinsey matrix. You see, it often is more valuable when used by a company for portfolio management, such as what Marriott has done here. You can see that they have plotted on the matrix their different hotel property lines. So a hotel line in the red zone may not be particularly bad if you have others in the green or yellow zone to manage your portfolio. In other words, there is a complementary aspect to these small business units. Again, this is very subjective, and you need someone assigning values with lots of experience and business depth. The product life cycle is a model that will frequently be mentioned in this course. I think this is a model that would be beneficial in analyzing where your company or client is, even if you are a startup. Notice you use sales as an indicator in this model. So if you are a startup in the introductory period, you might find that the investment in marketing and promotion will be on the high side as you try to get your product in the hands of customers. In the growth stage, you might begin to see competition, and your marketing will be aimed at increasing your company's product's market share. If you are in the mature stage of the product life cycle, you may have reached saturation and sales volume has been maxed out. If you are at this point, your attention should be at possibly introducing new variations of your product to prevent the decline stage from occurring. So far, we have been discussing looking internally at our company. Now let's look out the window and do an external analysis. Here, Michael Porter's 5 power forces may be very useful. I have decided to use an example here to explain this model. Here, my company is in the housing sector. My rivals would be places like RE/MAX, Washington Fine Properties, and Coldwell Banker. I might be worried about new entrants to the market, new home sales, and even home sales by owners. For substitutes, perhaps new generational groups are looking for substitutes to having a new home, like owning an RV or a houseboat. For the other two power forces to consider, I need to determine if we are in a buyer's or seller's market. In other words, who has more power? This is basically a supply and demand analysis. With fewer sellers, such as would happen with inflation or where there was a glut in housing, we would be in a buyer's market. If there were too many buyers and too few of properties for sale, we would be in a seller's market. I often point out in my neighborhood in Georgetown, we see very few for sale signs on properties. Georgetown, despite the housing market slowing nationally, shows that we are still in a seller's market. One way to think of it is as who is on top, who is looking down. A shortage of demand always favors the demand side of the equation. Another externality in the microanalysis to be evaluated is who are the stakeholders. Note that here you only focus on the external stakeholders. The customers, suppliers, government agencies, possibly creditors, labor unions, and community groups. You have already evaluated the internal stakeholders like your employees and owners in your internal analysis. For a nonprofit organization, the stakeholders are a bit different. They would include possibly an organization's members and donors, the government, partners and grantors and sponsors, volunteers, the wider communities, and also possibly employees. Once you have completed the internal and external evaluation or analysis of your client's company, you can capture them in a SWOT analysis. Here, I just caution you with threats to remember. This is something external to the organization and something that has not yet occurred. It is as if you are on the edge of a cliff and looking out to sea and trying to discern what possibly and adversely could happen to your business. I have some suggested threats on this slide. I have also found that students often confuse opportunities with a list of recommended actions for the client. Opportunities are something, an event, a situation, a trend that is happening external to the organization that the organization can exploit to their advantage. For example, if there is a trend for millennial consumers to demand authenticity in the products and services they buy, and authenticity is one of my strengths, I might be able to expand my geographic market targeting the millennials. This slide has a good list of external conditions that might be opportunities for your organization. The opportunity lies in your firm's ability to respond to a situation that you have observed in your research. So the opportunity is expressed as a situation, not something you will do. The main idea or process is that all of the observations in your internal and external analysis filter to your SWOT analysis for further consideration. In my tree, I have divided it in half, with the internal observations on the left side of the tree and the external observations on the right side of the tree. They all filter or fall down to become part of my SWOT analysis. For this analysis, you need both the SWOT matrix, which is usually an abbreviated bulleted list in each quadrant, plus a narrative of the SWOT that allows you to provide more nuances in discussing a particular quadrant area. Good luck with the first half of the strategic marketing plan, and remember to consult with me or your section leader if you have questions.